call this meeting to order and verify that a... What? Okay. It's now 6:31, Wednesday, July 22nd, 2020. I call this meeting to order and verify that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. This time I would ask you to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Trustee Mike Garrick, followed by the prayer.
Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Heavenly Father, thank you for this time together with these folks. We're going to get through this trying time. We have the leadership, we have the people in place to get these kids back in school, learning like they should. Amen.
Thank you. Thanks, sir.
Thank you. That brings us to the audience portion of the program or the agenda. Mr. Truitt, do we have any requests? All right. That brings us now to reports. Agenda item number 5 for board members. It's updates on the back-to-school start plan information from Governor Abbott, Education Commissioner Morant, and the University of Interscholastic League, the UIL, and McLennan County health officials. Mr. Truitt will be presenting that to us this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Sparks. To our guests on YouTube Live, this is only our second time to ever do a board meeting in this manner, so please bear with us. We're still verifying the sound, and we're going to do our best even with the presentations that are right behind me on the screen. But again, we're glad you're joining us. Board members, I'm going to combo agenda items 5 and 6 into one PowerPoint, and I'll tell you when we're changing topics as far as the updates to our Return to Learn plan, but also the news that we just received yesterday from the county, health department, and of course the University Interscholastic League. When we printed the packets and posted the agenda, as you know, we didn't have any of that information. So I had to redo many things in the last 24 hours, so we're still even learning a little bit about the UIL piece and the health department piece, but we're going to do our best tonight to share what we know. And I'm going to have Coach David Woodard even help me with the UIL piece. And I'll do a little bit of the marching band. He'll do the athletics, and we'll make sure you guys have the updates that we need to make some decisions moving into August. Mrs. Adams is going to have to help me with the slides because she's got the clicker there in the back, and so we're just going to do our best here. So stop me if you have questions, and I'll pass the mic. It's important whoever's speaking holds the mic so that our guests can hear what we're saying. All right. First off, thank you, Mrs. Adams. I gave you a copy of the PowerPoint. It's at your places so you can see where we are with the different slides. Again, we're going to talk about planning guidance, and then we're going to hit some slides in here that really talk about in depth the UIL and the county information. So just as a reminder, board, we're doing our best right now to communicate all updates to our students, staff, and parents. We unexpectedly received some news yesterday from both entities. We were expecting the UIL news, and so the morning was one of glee with the calendar updates and news about when we could start all fall sports and marching band. And then later that afternoon, we received the news from the county canceling much of the UIL plan and pushing everything back, as you know, to Tuesday, September the 8th. So we're going to share some information about that. I've been updating our websites and social media. Our staff today had a Zoom where we shared the updates, and just so you know, I'll schedule one for parents as well, and probably two, just to make sure they have all the information that we've received. I'm now glad we didn't run an article in the West News this week because the information would have been all incorrect. I didn't get back to Larry Knopick to meet his deadline, which now is turning out to be a blessing. So we'll be in next week's issue. We've already scheduled what we'll do there and some things that he'd like to do even on the new elementary school, including some of the pictures to print that you guys saw at the last meeting. The Zooms are going well. They're very well attended. Today's staff Zoom had over 90 at one point on it, and that's an incredible number to have half jumping on these meetings. And of course, emails and phone calls and stopping by are happening as well. Our FAQ is an important document right now. As people ask questions, we can publish answers, and so we're working on that as well. I wanted you to know our personal protective equipment order is in at Region 12 at the Service Center, and we've sent them a date for delivery, so we'll have all those things well before school starts. And then I added that last piece. Joey Moore, our attorney with Walsh Gallegos, has issued a 6-page document on leave and sick leave guidance for our staff that I'm going to send out this week, and I'll provide you a copy as well so you can see what local decisions we've added to what we can do from a legal standpoint to best help our staff throughout the year. So just wanted to give you those updates on that slide. Next, we have our county health district order that came through yesterday, and the wording that's in the white box. I know those at home and even those here in the boardroom, I just was showing you the order. I don't expect you to read that small picture. But the irony of that order is it's only those 3 points, but it carries with it a lot of heavy decisions for our district as we move forward into the start of school. So just as a reminder to everybody out there and in the boardroom tonight, it took effect yesterday, Tuesday, July 21st. So we had to immediately halt our summer and conditioning camps for the kids and any other activities such as marching band, drum major work, and all the other extracurriculars that are really just now starting, along with volleyball that normally would have been starting. So everything's on a hold right now per this order. As a reminder to everyone, what the order states, the big piece is that we cannot do on-campus instruction or any extracurricular activities until Tuesday, September 8th. And I know the order says Monday, September 7th, but it has a time of 11:59 p.m. So, of course, they really mean Tuesday the 8th, and, of course, that's Labor Day. But even if we wanted to do a practice, marching band or football or volleyball that night, we can't because of that timestamp. So I want to make sure everybody understands that they're talking about on-campus instruction. They're still going to allow remote instruction, and when we start talking about our calendar on the next agenda item, I'll go into the pros and cons of starting that plan early. On the fourth bullet point, they spell out all activities, so it's not just sports. If we wanted to start TSA or DI or ag, we can't. It's all events. So it's not just about the UIL piece of athletics and marching band. It's any extracurricular. So nothing can start until Tuesday, September 8th. And the last part we were having to do anyway, but interesting caveat is we must submit our plan. And in this case, it would be the Return to Learn plan that we've had out for about 2 weeks. To the County Public Health District office, and they must approve what's in it. And so I'll beef up the extracurricular portion based on the UIL information that was put out yesterday, and we'll submit it with all of our on-campus instruction along with health plans, and we'll make sure they get it well before August 21st so we have approval and, of course, to make it public as well. And for those out there in YouTube land, we'll make sure that that's put out well in advance. And if you go to our website, westisd.net, it's posted right now on the COVID plan box on the front of the district page as well as every campus page. All right, so believe it or not, just those 5 bullet points is what the order is about. Some of the other counties have more extensive orders. Ours is just these 5. Coach Woodard met with councilmen today, and we're going to meet Region 12 superintendents with the county health officials on Friday morning just to get more clarification, but also to share with them other pieces to the health orders that other counties have included, so maybe they'll reconsider portions of the plan. I don't expect the September 8th date to change, but other counties, such as Tarrant County, has a sub item under their order that says outdoor activities can still take place. And so different counties have thought through what we did last March through May, thinking about events like graduation and so on, and they've added pieces of those plans to their orders, and we hope McLennan County will do so as well. But right now, this is the plan, and so we're doing everything we can to respond to the September 8th date. All right, before I change slides, this is big. This is big, even though it's 5 bullet points. Does anybody have questions about the health order? Wonderful. All right, next slide, Mrs. Adams. All right, this is where Coach Woodard's going to take over the mic. I'm going to let him sit in this chair and use the microphone, and I'm going to join Mr. Sikora here on the side. Thank you for being here tonight, Coach Woodard.
Thank you, Mr. Truitt. First of all, I just want to apologize for yesterday. I know we put some information out in the morning, and then of course yesterday afternoon we got thrown for a curveball, and it all changed. And so I gave each and every one of you here tonight a couple of copies of some documents the UIL gave us. They also gave us some new calendars yesterday, and we were excited about those new calendars. There were very little changes on them in terms of what our sports were going to do. There were no changes to cross country. Those kids were going to actually get started with practice next Wednesday. With football, the only change was they took a scrimmage away from us just to allow us more time to get kids in shape. And I guess the biggest change to what the UIL decided to do was they did away with all volleyball and basketball tournaments. And added some games in that you could replace in place of those tournaments. So for the most part, there was little change to the 1 through 4A plan until McLennan County made the decision yesterday afternoon. And so that's going to put us in a big bind. And just like the first bullet point says up there, it can still change, and I fully expect it to. Somehow, some way, I expect more changes to be coming down the road, and so we'll go through these. So our new start date for all our athletic stuff is September 8th. So a couple of things real quick. I gave you 2 packets. The first one says 2020 Fall Athletics Fall Update. It's just kind of some things that it takes it out of the coach's hands quite a bit. So much of the scheduling, it's going to go to the superintendents and athletic directors in pretty much everything we do. Gives us some guidance and some things like that on how we need to handle some issues and things like that. So not going to talk a lot about it. I just gave you a copy of it so you could kind of read through it and go from there. The next one, the 2020-21 UIL COVID-19 risk mitigation guidelines, those are the things that we're going to have to do in West ISD and I guess everybody across the state for us to be able to participate in our extracurricular activities. And so there's quite a few of those things I'm fixing to go through. The biggest thing I want to talk about is through this packet we have right here, we really don't have a lot of specific answers. I mean, it came out yesterday. We've read through it. I've read through it twice and interpreted things 2 different ways. And so we're going to keep going through it, and we'll have some meetings on it. And I've got with Mr. Reniger yesterday, and we've started talking about some things and how we can handle some of those things that we have to do in terms of cleaning our facilities and things like that. So as we get more into this and have some time to really dissect it, we'll have a lot more specific answers on how we're exactly going to handle a lot of these things. And so the good thing about it is a lot of these things we already do. We've done through our summer workout. Every time somebody leaves the weight room, we clean it. Every time we get through summer conditioning and we get through with the workout, we go in and we clean the restrooms. Every time somebody gets through doing a set of weights, we wipe the bar down. I mean, and so our kids wear face masks. And so there's so many of these things that are in here we already do. Our coaches are used to doing, our kids are used to doing, and so it's not going to be a huge change for us. But there are a few things when it comes to game management and some things like that we are going to have to make sure that we take care of. So if you'll go ahead and flip to page 2 of that where it says required screenings, this is one of the things we do with our kids and coaches. We take temperatures every morning. They fill out a sheet weekly that says, have they been to a hot spot? Are they any symptoms? Any family member with symptoms? And so a lot of those things like that we will keep doing. We will add a piece of that to people coming to our games, visitors and fans. I don't exactly know how all that'll look just yet, but there is a screening process to people coming to our games. And basically any visitors coming to our campus. So if Channel 10 wanted to come do a story on us for a big football game that week, they're going to have to go through that screening process. And so any visitors or people that are allowed at our activities, there will be a pretty intense screening process for them to go through to be able to go through that. So that's really what that page is. And the good thing is we do a whole lot of that already. And so that's not a big change for us. Page 3, it's a lot of the same stuff from TEA with what happens if a kid tests positive or somebody tests positive and how you're supposed to handle all that. So I know y'all have gone through that with the TEA document, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time on that. But page 4 is where it really starts getting a lot of changes with us. And so I do want to hit some of the things on there. And we do some of these already, and we're going to have to add to some of them as well. Hand sanitizer, disinfecting wipes. Of course, that's a huge cleaning piece. We have that in the weight room now. When we started summer conditioning, the UIL mandated that we didn't go into locker rooms, and so we don't have that in there yet, but I know we'll be adding those things as we get moving forward. We're going to have to clean things regularly. For example, if we have a group of kids that come in, a team that comes in at 7:15 in the morning to lift weights in the weight room, we'll have to clean that weight room before our middle school kids get in there at 8 o'clock. And after they lift, we'll have to clean that weight room before our high school boys get in there at 11:15. And we'll have to clean it before our high school girls get in there at 2:30. And so after each group, there's going to be a substantial amount of time that we spend doing those types of things. And so, of course, the face coverings is big. I went through the building yesterday and documented the number of lockers in each locker room, and we're going to strategically try to spread kids out so as to minimize the amount of kids that we have in each locker room, and we'll have coaches in there monitoring those to make sure that they're staying away and they're in and out and not congregating, and we really minimize the amount of times those guys, they're 6 feet apart. And so we're going to really work on that. And so a ton of cleaning things to do in terms of just using our facilities, but also in terms of visiting teams come in. When a visiting football team comes in, the locker room they use is going to have to be disinfected beforehand, and it'll have to be disinfected afterwards before we start school the next morning or whatever. And so a ton of things to do in terms of what to do in game management. I started today on football game days. What do we do at 3:45? And I started making a list of things so we can go through each and every one of those moments in time as to what needs to be done by us, what needs to be done by people in the community, and things like that. So a lot of things going on, especially when it comes to us and managing games. We even have to screen the officials. And so it's a big process for us on game nights to be able to make sure that we're doing the best that we can do to keep everybody safe. Next biggest part of it is the amount of people at games. They're going to limit capacity of everything right now at 50%. No consecutive rows being sat on. Things have to be cleaned beforehand, and so we're going to have to figure out a way and be creative about how many people are going to be at games and have pre-sale tickets, especially for our visitors. And, do you count the people that are standing on the fence? And so many things to do in terms of game management, in terms of being able to, especially through a football game. A volleyball and a basketball game, one of the great things about our gym being like it is it's really big and it's really conducive to be able to handle those crowds. And so that's not going to be as huge of an ordeal, but it's still going to be something that we really have to go to. And so a couple of things that, I was really under the impression that they might not let bands travel or cheerleaders travel to away games. They might only let them be at home games, but they are going to let them travel. Of course, we do have to, wear masks on the bus and do some things like that, but we have to separate those groups. They can't be near the participants. Everybody has to be at least 10 feet away from a band member blowing an instrument, and so just a ton of guidelines that we have to go through on these things. And so, like I said, we don't have a lot of specific answers yet, but we are starting to formulate some plans and figure out how we can do some things. And then the last thing I really want to talk about is concession stands. Those are still going to be utilized, but we are going to have to make some changes into some, everything's going to have to be in packets. We're going to have to hand forks and spoons out in packets, and, it's a lot of things. And so really, really proud of the UIL and the work that they did. I know that their leadership has spent a ton of time doing this. They've been very receptive to answering our text messages and phone calls and answering questions as best as they could. And so they've done a lot of thought and really, I thought, had a really good plan, us moving forward into the school year with the 1As and 4As starting and the 5 and 6As being a little later, and being able to stagger some things and getting our sports seasons back rolling and our kids under control. But like I said, McLennan County threw us for a loop, and we'll handle what they've thrown at us and go from there. So the biggest thing I want to get out of tonight is that I want to make sure that everybody understands how proud we are of our administration, of Mr. Truitt and Mr. McKeska and Brian Rigger and everybody who's done a great job of helping us have the things that we've needed to keep our facilities clean. Proud of our coaches and kids and how hard they've worked at trying like heck to follow those guidelines, even though they haven't always been easy, and we haven't been perfect at it. But they've done a great job of going through our 18 or 19 days of workouts that we've had, and people staying safe and doing what they were supposed to do. And so, and then most of all, thank y'all, because y'all have done a tremendous job of being able to help us make the decisions and supporting us in the decisions that we've made to be able to get our kids back up here this summer. It was awesome. The most attendance we've ever had at summer conditioning for boys and girls by kids and coaches, just for the fact that it was, everybody was so ready to get back. And, we look forward to September 8th when we can get back again and get not just athletics rolling, but get the school year rolling and the kids back in school and back to normal. So any questions from anybody? I know I went through that. If I missed something, just feel free to email me or shoot me a call or whatever. But, thank y'all for everything y'all do.
Coach, since the county kind of overruled the UIL on some of the dates, I guess it's potential that we could play a team from a different county and they got to start practice before we did, and so they come in with an advantage. Is that just going to be part of another one of the coaching things we learned to live with and just go on?
The question was, since we're shut down and teams in our district are in different counties, are we just they gonna play as normal and we're just gonna pick up where we are, and that's what it's gonna be. And it does it can put you behind the 8 ball a little bit. I'll just throw out Grandview, for instance. They're back-to-back state champs, and there's no order in Johnson County, so they're starting practice August 3rd, and they've got a scrimmage on August 20th, and they're going to play 5 football games before we start district, or 4 football games before we start district. And so, is it a disadvantage? It sure is, but that's one of those teachable moments you have for kids, is you figure out a way to overcome, you figure out a way to adapt, and you handle the adversity the best you can. And so, that's what we're going to talk to our kids about is I tell my kids at my house all the time, rule number 1, life's not fair. And, we're just going to work hard to overcome it. And who knows, it might actually be an advantage to us. So we're just going to do what we can do. And when we start playing on October 2nd, which is I hope the day we start playing on, we'll get after it. Well, thank you. I have a lot of help with my staff too. So our coaches do a great job of taking care of our kids and teaching them the way they need to teach them. No, we're the only team in McLennan County, but we got those Dallas County schools, and they're under the same order we are. And so there's 4 of us that are sitting on our hands right now, and there's 3 of them that are working. So we had a meeting today through that, and we'll have a meeting with our spring district. Our volleyball district is different. It's got 5 schools that are sitting on their hands right now, and 3 that are still able to work. And so we're working through volleyball schedules right now. We're working through cross-country schedules, the ADs and We're going to get the superintendents involved eventually, and so hopefully all of those fall schedules will be out sooner rather than later. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach Woodard. We're blessed in West to have you on our team. Good information. And we'll take UIL questions still. I know that was a lot in a short amount of time. So is everybody okay with moving forward with what you know? All right, marching band, it's right along the same lines as what Coach Woodard shared. They can't start their marching piece or practice or playing any concert, jazz band, anything until September 8th. And so obviously that puts them behind a little. It's not a state marching year, but it's still a marching year where they go to contest. And so they'll do their best when that time comes, unless we get the reprieve again on the outdoor practice piece, and that really is a game changer for athletics and band and many other extracurriculars. They've already moved region contest to December from October, because that was the other big one for band. So they have a plan. Just the challenge there is everything's in December. So we're just going to have to work really hard, since our kids are shared by many activities, that they're at band and everything else on those days. But we'll get it done. I'm just glad they have a plan and have been thinking about what's best for kids. Coach Woodard, you're good. Go home and be with your family. Thank you for being here, sir. All right, let's keep rolling. Thanks, Dave. Next slide, Ms. Adams. Our new understanding from Friday, this was going to be the biggest part of my PowerPoint tonight on that first agenda item. I had about 7 things to share, and obviously the other slides were added. Since our last board meeting, the regular meeting in July, I just wanted to make sure you knew a couple of things at TEA. They listened. Commissioner Morath heard the questions and provided some clarity and some new answers to help with our plans for back to school. So I just wanted to share what these things are, because they weren't included in our original Return to Learn plan. The irony of the first one is we had a choice from TEA about moving our start date to after Labor Day. Of course, now you know the county made that decision for us. On the second bullet point, we could have started the year, and you've seen a lot of this across the state, especially in some high-hit areas with high positive COVID rates, that they're starting remote only. Not because of even necessarily a county order. They were doing it, but now county orders are following that decision. And then that third bullet point is, for some reason, the TEA had language that you could only close for a COVID-19 situation for 5 days. We never understood what was significant of 5 days and why it was capped, but of course they did away with that. There's a waiver now, and if we have to be out for a while, it's fine. Remember, the irony of that one, too, is as long as we have remote instruction going at any closure period, it still counts as days of instruction. Funding, accountability, everything is still going. So it's all about how fast can we get all 1,350 kids online and learning at a high rate. All right, not the March through May plan. That if I had to give it on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd say that was like a 3 or a 4. What we're doing now is a 10. So we have a lot of improvement to do in reaching our kids if they choose the remote instruction piece. Next slide. High schools now can provide a hybrid option of doing a combination of on-campus remote instruction. This was provided thinking about overcrowding and that they're old enough kids to be home alone. The irony is, for us, really the campus that we would need something like this is elementary. Each district is unique in their approach to this. I know some districts do want to try this and had originally come up with some A and B type days, and on 1 week, off 1 week, or in person, Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday, all online on Friday. We just don't have the need for that at West Middle School, High School because of the room we have and the number of kids choosing so far through registration remote instruction. So we'll be able to social distance and do things per our health plan and not have to send kids home on the hybrid plan. So this is really to relieve some districts of some challenges that ours are at our younger grades. On the attendance for remote instruction will still be marked by student engagement. I want to make sure you guys understand the way this remote instruction piece works, because it's a really impressive plan we put together. I was already so proud of our teachers from March to May, because as I watched what other districts around us were doing and what we were doing even then, it was night and day. And even now, as I hear from other superintendents what they're doing, I'm just really impressed with Ms. Adams and Mrs. Cosda and Mr. Clander and what they've committed to. And it's why on our calendar it's so important we give teachers the work time at the start of school and during the work day to make sure it's being implemented with fidelity. So our home learning, or remote as they call it, and the on-campus are mirrored. They look exactly the same, and at the end of the year I can feel good about signing that attestation saying we did our best to mirror it, and that the kids have mastered the TEKS the best of our ability. And so that's the goal, is that it looks the same. And so on that piece, Mrs. Adams set the goal that the remote learners have 180 and 240 minutes per day based on their grade level. And we have a piece using Schoology for pre-kindergarten through grade 12 that will track analytically the number of minutes per day they're actually online and engaged. And that's why it was important we went with Schoology, is so we could see that they were making progress on their assignments, but we'd also could track the minutes they were in there. And it's not a system where you can get on at 8 a.m. and it just sits open and they can go play, Fortnite and eat pizza, and they come back and, I was on it for 5 hours. No, it's active in the system where it can tell if they're clicking and working and saving and all those things. And that was important to us, to make sure our kids were working daily, versus in March through May, they might on a Friday afternoon, I've got work to turn in by Sunday night, and suddenly they're active in a 4-hour span. This is about, again, remote mirroring on campus. So every day they're going to do their cores and their electives, just like they would if they were on our campus. All right, so that one gives us the ability for the attendance piece. In PEAMS now, instead of having the report if they were in the system daily, we can do a printout, is what we're thinking, at the end of the week, and do attendance on a weekly basis. This may surprise you, but if a remote learner is not working on a daily basis, they can be truant. So just like they're not engaged at school, but meaning they're absent, it's like they're absent at home because they're not doing the work. So if they're not getting in the Schoology, the 3 and the 10 in truancy with the letters and going to Judge Perea, all that kicks in. And so that's going to be an eye-opener to some of our remote learning families that are considering this. And that's not a West thing, that's a state of Texas thing. We're just implementing the plan that's in the packet. So the attendance piece is huge. And on that last one, I added this. Governor Abbott released $200 million, and we decided to apply. And we're going to get back, we think, $20,000+ if it's approved, for a dollar-for-dollar program for our families in need of devices and hotspots. So if we bought one for them, the state would pay half the cost. And so that was great news. So we appreciate Governor Abbott and Commissioner Morath doing this for us. We had to use the best data we have. The irony of a situation like this is the families that don't have the technology or the hotspots are the ones not engaged with the surveys and so on. And so we've done our best detective work, and who we knew from March through May and from the data we had to submit to the state who those families are so that we could have this ready for the start of school. And I got an email today that it should be here by the new start of school of September 8th. So we're excited about that. Okay, let's talk about our scholastic calendar. But I'm going to go over this slide just to remind you of our calendar journey. And as far as the agenda goes, Dr. Sparks, this is the next agenda item. We're on, just so you can go through the agenda, I'm going to let you read the item and then I'll take over.
Agenda item number 6 is reports, updates on the West ISD 2020-2021 Return to Learn on Campus and Remote Instruction Plans. Mr. Truitt.
All right, that's actually what I just did, so I apologize. So now we're on to 7.
Oh, it's an action item?
It will be after I present.
Okay. Agenda item number 7 is an action item. It's consideration and possible action by the board to approve the updates to the 2020-2021 West ISD scholastic calendar.
Thank you. I know this is your third one to approve at a board meeting, but just as a reminder, we've been on quite the calendar journey, and it may not be the last one you approve between now and September 8th. I envision there being another special called meeting, or even at our August regular meeting, us having to bring back something new based on county orders or even other information from the governor or the commissioner. But I think it's important as we go through this journey that we publish our calendar and alert our parents and our students and staff to our plans so that we can appropriately respond as those dates get closer in August and September. So, of course, you'll remember you approved a traditional calendar way back that met our usual goals from our surveys, and that calendar seems so long ago. We came back with version 2, where the commissioner challenged us to bank 4 weeks worth of days and have them spread out throughout the year in case of COVID closures. And so we created a calendar where we had 20 days banked, and we felt really good about it. Then he came back and said, hey, if you go on remote learning, it'll count as an instructional day, so you really don't need the bank days, because if you've got your remote instruction plan going, you're rocking it. So we realized that, all right, we don't need to do that, and we went back to a hybrid of our old calendar with a big caveat to it. You know, through meetings with the teachers and talking with Mrs. Adams and the principals, when we started thinking about how big of a challenge the remote instruction piece was going to be for our teachers, having to do on campus and remote, versus, remember, in March through May, they only did remote. So they're going to have their kids in their classrooms and some at home, and having to mirror everything I mentioned earlier. How can we give them more time at the start of the year before school starts, and then every day of the calendar, 172 days or whatever we're going to land on. The calendar you have in front of you tonight's 164. So how can we have time? And so remember we talked last time about this dismissal time and how long our school day is, and how can we work in time to the work day so our staff can work together and post and film and video and hang out, do Google Hangouts and Zooms with kids. And so we tried to work into the schedule this second work time, and that was version 3 of the calendar. 4 became the bigger picture of the start of school, and so we were prepared to ask you guys, after you had just approved version 3, to change our start date for school, from August 17th, which you just approved at the regular meeting, to allowing us the opportunity to move the start date 5 days so we could have 10 work days and training days for the teachers. So we were ready to present that calendar tonight, and it's what's in your packet. Well, unfortunately, yesterday makes that calendar kind of worthless to our plan. So the new calendar tonight that I'd like to present is the handout I gave you at your table. So this is hot off the press, created in the last 24 hours, but it has the tenets that we've been talking about on the other 4 versions. So it's not a radical change in our approach of making sure we still have that built-in time at the start of school and on each work day of school, the 164 days, and it has the September 8th start date. All right. Now, it looks pretty revolutionary in a couple of areas. And for our folks at home, Amanda, go and put the calendar up. And if you could zoom in, I know it's hard for them to see because of how we have to do the camera, but they might be able to see some different months as we talk about it if you'll zoom in for them. And let's start with August, please, ma'am. All right, I'm going to get a few updates out of the way while she's doing that. Just as a reminder, we always have a goal of having a break for students, staff, and families every month. So go ahead and look now, and you can see that there's green in every single month. That was huge. And if you remember last meeting, Ms. Crawshaw said, hey, we need to have something in October because that was long from September with Labor Day till Thanksgiving. So bam, we got an October date. The teachers loved it. Right now, that's homecoming. Knock on wood. I hope we're still doing homecoming that night If not, we can look at another date, or we still keep the 9th. Teachers like the 9th because it's in between perfectly if the Labor Day and Thanksgiving breaks. All right, so the green's in there. We were able to keep MLK Day, President's Day, Good Friday, everything that we shoot for in our goal for all the different celebrations are in the calendar. Thanksgiving is still 5 days. The Christmas break is still 2 full weeks with the weekends on bookends. And we still would get out before Memorial Day, which on the calendars I've seen in response to the county's order is unheard of. For example, Waco ISD is going through June 10th. All right, and so we can get our minutes in because of our school day and still get out on Friday, May 28th. All right, now let's talk about the red days and even those yellows. The calendar you were going to approve tonight had the new staff in service on August 3rd and 4th. You can see that we're proposing we move everything back a week. And so new staff in service would be on the 12th and 13th, right in this room, social distancing. And then we're going to have 3 weeks or 15 days of teacher prep time. And let me tell you, when we shared this with the staff on Zoom, it was good. Zoom's hard to get feedback on, but I gave them the opportunity to tell me if they thought the idea stunk. Other ideas, we gave them some time. I emailed them the calendar this afternoon. Remember, the timeline has been tight because this just happened yesterday. And so we're doing our best to get it to staff and get feedback. Of course, the admin team, we're all crammed into my office. Social distancing, of course. And we were meeting to craft this calendar just yesterday after we received the news from the health department. So the 15 days is good. I can't stress that enough. Our teachers have to learn Seesaw and Schoology and remote learning and go over the COVID plan. We've got to remove furniture to social distance in all the classrooms the best we can. We've got to make sure everybody has the hand washing stations and masks and you name it. We've got to do it. And so it's going to be a lot. And that's why we were already moving 5 to 10 days. And now the extra 5 is just gravy on the plan. And so we would like tonight for you to consider this version of the plan with the 15 days, with the mandated start date of Tuesday the 8th. And I want to make sure you understand what we're saying here because a lot of districts are doing this part differently. We are saying on Tuesday, September 8th, that we would wait the start on campus, of course, because we have to per the order, but also remote, all right? And Waco's doing the same thing, but I know next door in La Vega, they're starting remote on August 13th, all right? So it's just philosophy. Our con list when we made it was 4 times the pros for starting the remote earlier. And I know we'll have some people that love this, and we'll have some people that, Truett, you're crazy. And we want to do our best always to explain the why we came to this decision, because I know it means 2 extra weeks that the kids will be at home with their families until we can get them to school per the order. But we didn't think 2 weeks on remote learning for those 1350 kids was worth these reasons. And let me go through them with you. I wrote them down from our staff. First off, on that first day, we'd have to have everything ready. Frankly, I'm impressed La Vega's trying it. I don't know how they're going to have it ready. Dr. Shields does a fabulous job there. I don't mean this as criticism of their school district, but I don't know how they're going to get that done. Other districts that are trying it, I don't know either. Because it means that, remember the attendance piece, remember all the courses I mentioned, remember the kids would have to know how to use Seesaw and Schoology, all the resources we're going to have online on the first day. And we'll have new kids that don't even know what Schoology is. They may not even have a device. They may not have a hotspot. They may not have internet connectivity. They're going to be new pre-Kers that have never been in school, but they have to get on for, think about the challenge. And I'm not talking about for the teachers so much as our families, that we're asking them to take this on. And in just about the time they're going to get it right, we're going to have on-campus instruction ready for September 8th. So we have no way to meet with them, no way to train them. Technology won't be here that we need to check out, the hot spots that we've ordered. Kids have moved up grade levels, so all the teachers will have new kids. They don't know they're all new. Special education plans, 504 plans, ESL plans. You can imagine the challenge, and they'll be meeting them for the first time on a Zoom, and that's if all the kids are on it. And y'all know how hard it is to meet kids in a Zoom setting, so imagine the challenge for a teacher that has 158 trying to get through all those if we started remote learning early. Parents are at work. I think we'd be asking a lot of them for 2 weeks if they're going to be an on-campus family to go for this, and to say do it at a level where we don't say you're truant or out of school, and that all the kids are getting their work done so their grades look good before the September 8th period. So we even would have an eligibility check at 6 weeks, and 2 weeks of it would be remote learning. The switch to on-campus, all of a sudden with everybody remoting, we get it all going, and I know I mentioned this a second ago, but all of a sudden all the kids would come back, a majority of them then for on-campus on September 8th after we got all this done for this piece. And some could choose to stay. That was a pro on remote. Engaging the kids after they've been out of school for 200 days since March. Getting 2 more weeks of instruction is always a good thing. But it went back to the cons, and we just feel like waiting till September 8th is the way to go. And so that'll be part of this recommendation is on campus and remote beginning on Tuesday the 8th as the state specified and what we think is best for kids in West. And the rest of the calendar is what you've been seeing with the testing dates. I do want to point out at the bottom of the key, the grading period data. The first grading period would be 38 days, second one 39, third one 43, fourth one 44, totals 164 days, 17 red days because of how many were front loading in August and September. We have our flex days, and our teachers, many of them already have these hours. You can see in the very bottom that even with this calendar, we still bank 5.5 days for missed instruction, and for some reason, we have a problem with remote instruction. So I was really proud that we had over a week as a just in case if we have snow days and things that we were good. The teachers would rather finish on Saturday the 29th than to come after Memorial Day on June the 1st to check out and get their grades in. No problem. We've done that before since I've been here, and it works out great. Graduation will be that weekend of Memorial Day, that 28th to 29th in there. And so we're ready to roll with this version. It's a better version than I even gave you at the start of this month at the previous meeting. But I want to caution you, I could come back with another one at the August meeting. But we've got to get the word out. We got to let our families know what we know. And I have to keep asking them to be patient and understanding with the process this year. We're doing the best we can, and we're presenting what we know at the time and trying to do what's best for kids with the information as we get it really on a daily basis right now. So tonight I'm seeking your approval on the version that was at your tables for the reasons I just presented, but mostly because of the required September 8th start date. Questions? I'll answer anything. Thank you. I'm proud of it. It's very staff and student friendly, family friendly. I think it meets a lot of goals, a lot of check boxes. And I'd be thrilled if we could start the year with this calendar. I hope we don't have to come back with version 7? Version 7. So hopefully version 7's not coming and this is it, but we've got to let our families know our plan and work with them and their concerns.
So are you saying that on the 8th is when equipment's going to be handed out?
No, ma'am. We have to do that over those 15 days for the remote families that need it, because they have to start on the 8th. So, yes, ma'am. And that's another reason I need to add that one to my pros list, because we can use that 15 days. Miss Adams, ladies, and the tech guys can get the equipment checked out so those kids are ready to go. I didn't even have that one down. That is a great idea. Obviously, the key is getting them logged into the different softwares and making sure they can navigate them. And I hope I'm not repeating something you already know. I'm not. The Return to Learn plan that I sent y'all in the packet has a section in there that we're requiring our remote instruction families to do an in-service with us, but it's going to have to be virtual and online. But we're going to train them on how to do all the software, so before the 8th, they already know how to get on and all passwords are working, and we know their connectivity's solid. We know who's going to help the child with their home learning. So we're going to meet individually, even if virtually, or masks in my office, I don't care, to make sure they're all ready. Yes, ma'am. And our data is still holding. You know, we started new and returning registration this past Monday, and some districts are telling me that 50% of their kids want, or their families want remote. Ours is still around 10. Our families want their Trojans and Lady Trojans back at school, and we welcome that, and we're up for the challenge. And so we're ready to roll on September 8th with our health and instruction plan, and 90% of our 1350 kids will be in the buildings, and we're ready for that. Yeah, we have to. I would feel horrible if they were being counted absent and not ready to learn because we couldn't get that equipment to them, so we'll get it done. All right, so Dr. Sparks, tonight I'm seeking your approval on version 6 of the scholastic calendar with the start date of September 8th for remote and on-campus instruction.
Thank you, David. The floor is now open for a motion to address item number 7 as presented by Mr. Truitt. Jason Yannick makes the motion, seconded by Michael Garrick. All those in favor, please show of hands. 7-0. Thank you very much. That brings us to agenda item number 8, which is also an action item. It's consideration and possible action by the board to approve the 2021 West ISD Student Code of Conduct, and that will also be presented by Mr. Truitt.
Thank you, sir. If everyone would look at the memo from me at your place, it's not a legislative year, so the code stays the same except for a couple of updates. And I wanted to make sure you knew what those were, because remember, this is the one document for staff and students that you approve. The handbooks aren't a board item, because remember, if you approve them, they become board policy, and think of them as regulations. But the code is not. And so we've got 6 things I want to talk to you about. We added 2 things related to our health plan. We had a long discussion about wording about inappropriate facial coverings, all these different types of masks, and we want our kids to be comfortable with whether they want a face shield or the gaiter or a cloth mask or a paper mask. We want them working now on what they'd like. And unfortunately, we've already seen on the internet that there's some out there that are inappropriate with symbols and words and things, and so our code already says you can't wear or have those things on your clothing or on your person at school, and we just want to add facial coverings to the long list with a comma so that it's included as well. And then we actually had to have a discussion about what if a student refuses to wear the face covering, and since we don't have that option, we had to add it to our code as disobeying a school rule. And I'm not talking about kids that for a health reason or a plan that is going to need a break or have a different type of face covering. we're talking about regular education, following the code of conduct, just being defiant. And we're going to give the kids breaks, and we know if they have to go to the hallway to sneeze, we're not going to, have an iron fist on this. We got to be flexible because I know we're asking a lot, but it's a must in our plan. So we want this in there just as and if needed. Number 3, with our new assistant principals, we had to change names of the behavior coordinators, and so it's a switch out of their names. On the truancy attendance coordinator, that's a switch out of a name as well, with one assistant principal that left and a new one that was hired. The last 2, though, and you may have questions on these, I'd like to address these. On the cell phone guidelines, first off, it's secondary only. With the Chromebooks coming in September, now this date's going to help us even better with that plan. The need to have the cell phones out in class for 8 periods a day at grades 6 through 12 is no longer needed. And I'll tell you, the staff is elated because of just how challenging it is to police it and how much of a distraction it's become with learning, with battling situations, with the phones being on and off in class. And so with the Chromebooks coming, the need of having it as a device is no longer there. So we're changing our code to a more traditional that your phones must be off and up during class time. And now they'll use their Chromebook if they need it. So there's no reason to have your phone out. So we hope this will cut down on our bandwidth struggles, but also social media and texting and phone calls and even some inappropriate things that sometimes happen with the phones. We only see pluses to this. And I really cannot understand an argument for this when we're giving them a Chromebook. If we weren't going to check out the Chromebooks, I get it. But we're giving them a better device than their phone. So the phones go up, and then it just becomes a before, after school, and lunch thing. And we know at times there's a need for that. So we're changing our policy, and with it comes the traditional confiscation if it's out, student pickup on one. The second infraction is parent pickup, and the third infraction is parent pickup and the fine. And the state says for phones you can do $15. And of course we work with all families, but I feel fine. My temperature was checked. I have no symptoms. That was because I've been talking so much. I'm okay. Diet Coke felt good. We'll work with all families, but I know we're going to ask a lot of our front office ladies and the administrators, but we think over time with these expectations clearly explained and communicated, we'll get there. But again, Chromebooks, they're going to have them, no need for the others. And on the last one, I felt we set a goal from our survey to really address bus behavior this year, really support our drivers. Mr. Mailer, with the new APs, we've been having a long conversation about removal for different infractions. And so we're adding a whole section so our families fully understand that in addition to the health guidelines that we must have a family member at the bus stop each morning in case for the temperature check or the symptom check, they have to go home if they can't get on the bus. But with the buses being requirements for masks for all grades, and remember our plan for the campuses was 3 and above, the state was 4 and above, but even if you're a kindergartner on a bus, you have to wear a mask. And I think you'll all agree that's needed because of the space on a bus. So we have the guidelines for students per seat. We're going to space out the best we can. We're going to recommend families drive this year like they've never driven before versus bus transportation. So we're going to need to be on the bus referrals. And so after talking with the assistant principals, we're putting in infractions to remove a student that build. And of course, I'm not talking about small bus rules. Those will still be 3 to 5 day removal. But in our code of conduct, as you know, we have a classification system that builds based on the small things being repeated and then anything that's a big disruption or a safety issue. And so if it hits one of those, guys, we're going to remove them for a grading period. And if they do another one, we're taking them off for the whole year. And we think we need to do this, especially this year with our safety plan, but also to support our drivers and to make sure our bus rides in the morning and afternoons are safe. And so we'll hit some challenges here, but we're up for it. But we think if there's ever a year moving forward for bus removals for inappropriate and disruptive behavior, and again, repeatedly, I'm not talking about the first offense unless it rises to the level of a class 4 or higher, then we have to, because they'll even be in the alternative school for those. Why would they ride the bus? But we're going to stay on those. So that's going to be added to the code as well.
Have you done a survey, or was it included in the survey to see what parents are thinking about bus riders and car drivers as opposed to past years?
No, not yet, but once we see who who's remote, obviously they'll be removed, and then we're going to look at our bus riders from last year, and of course we're asking the new ones and reach out to them by phone to see what they're thinking for this year so we can appropriately staff and do the routes the way we need them done, the social distance on the buses. All right, so those are the updates to the code. Do y'all have questions? So tonight really I'm asking for your approval for those 6 things to be added or amended. And the rest of the document you approved last year is the same.
If there are no further questions, I will now call for a motion to address agenda item number 8, the consideration by the board to approve the 2021 West ISD Student Code of Conduct. Okay, Kenny made the motion, seconded by John Crowder. All those in favor, please show of hands. Thank you very much, 7-0. All right, it is now 7:33 p.m. At this time, we will adjourn to closed executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Chapter 551071, 551129, 551074, and 551072.
To those of you watching on YouTube Live, we're going to executive closed session, but we're going to leave the camera on but muted because we'll come back after closed session, and so you'll still see the picture of the boardroom up, but no, the meeting hasn't ended. So again, we're glad you're here and watching tonight, and so it's time to take a break. Thank you.
Is everybody back in here? All right, Lee, I'll give you a second to grab your stuff. All right, it's 8:27 at this time. We'll reconvene from closed executive session to address those items that we discussed in closed executive session. Mr. Truitt.
All right. Like to thank those out there on YouTube that stuck with us. We're back from closed session, and if you're following along the agenda, we are on items 10A and 10B. 10A, we always have posted the personnel report, but there's no updates tonight, and so we'll take no action on the personnel report. The good news is if school started today, we've got our staff in place. For 10B, I'm going to turn that one over to you, Dr. Sparks, because this has to do with my appraisal, and so I'm going to let you lead that one.
Agenda item 10B is an action item, consideration and action to approve the superintendent's annual appraisal. We've just done that in a closed executive session. The floor is now open for a motion to address this action item. Mike Garrick's made the motion. Is there a second? John Crowder, second. All those in favor of approving it? Thank you very much. That then brings us to agenda item number 11, which is the adjournment of this meeting. The floor is open for a motion to adjourn the meeting. Holly Willis has made the motion to adjourn the meeting. Is there a second? Jason Yannick has seconded. All those in favor, please show of hands. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us on YouTube, and thank you all for being here this evening.